What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of our NFL season preview. We're through halfway of the league at this point, and we're making our way through the top teams left in the NFL for the 2022 season. Hope you like what we've done so far. If you do, hit that like button, hit the comment, let's discuss. Please hit that subscribe button so we can keep doing this. I'm enjoying it, making new episodes almost every other day at this point. So let's get into it. Today we're going to do the Miami Dolphins. If you're new to this, we're going to go through what happened in the offseason, what they can improve upon, what additions, subtractions, look at their schedule, and what projections we can expect with this team coming into the 2022 season. So I'll highlight as I go. We'll start with last season. I'll highlight, like I said, so you'll know where I'm at as I'm going through. Last season, they were 9-8. I forget that they started 1-7 and then finished the season by winning 8 of their last 9, getting on that roll and just almost making the playoffs. Came up a little short at 9-8, even with the additional wild card position, but they go into the season as maybe one of the hottest teams and one of the most up-and-coming teams for sure in the NFL. One of the key things is that huge offseason thing was that they got rid of Brian Flores, brought in Mike McDaniel, the offensive coordinator, run guru in San Francisco. They keep Frank Smith They brought in Frank Smith, but they kept Josh Boyer, who was running that great defense. So a little bit of change, especially on the offensive side of the ball. So we'll get into their additions. So this year's draft, the key thing was that they brought in Tyreek Hill. So they had the fewest picks in the league after making that Tyreek Hill trade. We'll get more into that as we discuss the rest of the video. But they didn't have many holes to fill going into this draft. So with their first pick, which was at 102, they took Channing. Let me make this a little smaller. Small as it'll go. All right, they took Channing Tindall from the linebacker out of Georgia. He's an inside linebacker. He's an unsung hero behind the Kobe Dean. The Kobe Dean got all the media focal point, and you didn't hear anything much about this guy. He's going to be an ideal spy on third down, if nothing else, ideal spy for the quarterback on third down, if nothing else. Should get a little bit of playing time. This defense is young and up and coming, but solid draft pick for sure in the third to get him in the third round. Then in the fourth, they took Eric Ezekama, the wide receiver out of Texas Tech. He gets some comparisons to Deebo Samuel, similar skill set, but he's just nowhere near as fast as Deebo Samuel. So we'll see how that plays out, see how much he sees the field if they plug and play him like they did Deebo in San Francisco, especially with Mike McDaniel being here. And then they had 2 7th-rounders that they used on another linebacker and a quarterback. Nothing relevant at this point. So in free agency, big splashes for sure. Like I said, they brought in Tyreek Hill, got him that new major contract, making him the top or second highest wide receiver ahead or behind of Devontae Adams, They signed Teron Armstead. So they get their number one receiver in Tyreek Hill, the speedster, pair him with Jalen Waddle. We're going to discuss this and break this down more as we go. So Teron Armstead, he's going to lift the entire offensive line. Maybe he was the top free agent out there, potentially, I would say. It's definitely the top lineman available. Going to raise the entire group. They have Xavier Howard that they that they gave him an extension. They re-signed Emmanuel Ogbah. And, he's maybe the second best defensive player on this team. You can argue that. He had 9 sacks each of the last 2 seasons. They re-signed, well, I say re-signed, but they franchised Mike Gesicki. It's kind of questioned because Mike McDaniel's offense, tight end, is a run blocker primarily, and that's not his forte with Mike Gesicki. He's definitely a pass catcher, so we'll see how that plays out in this offense. They did sign Melvin Ingram. Where is he even at on this depth chart? Right there, you can't even see him. Melvin Ingram. He was effective in the pass rush and a good run defender last year as well. So a solid pickup. Who is he even going to start? I don't even know if he's going to start. You have Jalen Phillips that we'll discuss in a little bit. But this defense is just amazing. Young and amazing. They signed Sony Michel, Raheem Mostert, and Chase Edmonds. So completely revamped the backfield. They still have Myles Gaskin and Salvon Ahmed that probably going to fall to the bottom of this depth chart for sure. They optioned in on that 5th-year option on Christian Wilkins, the D tackle, and they signed Cedric Wilson. So a ton of moves in the offseason. Cedric Wilson is definitely underrated, especially as their number 3 wide receiver. I expect big things from him, especially being that Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill are just gonna eat up the middle of the field nonstop. So they just had a few losses this offseason. Not much to speak of at all that was relevant, anyways. They traded away Devontae Parker interdivisionally, within the division to the New England Patriots. And I mean, that shows how little they thought of him to trade him to a division rival. Jesse Davis is out as an offensive lineman starter. So besides that, it was just those 2 losses. So, I mean, not much change, not much loss, I should say, but a lot of addition to this team, filling almost every hole that they had on this team. So now we'll get into their strengths, and boy, do they have strengths. So, first off, like I said earlier, they're young and up-and-coming D. Look at this, draft picks. All right, last year, 2 years ago, a little bit older, last year, 4 years ago, 3 years ago, 3 years ago, 2 years ago. I mean, this is all young guys. And they're all average or better, which is crazy. I mean, so it's just some statistics to show how great this defense was. I mean, you could get 1,000 statistics for them. They were 7th in red zone scoring percentage opponent, that is, just 53%. So 1 out of 2 times, which is great in the NFL, in today's NFL for sure. They were 7th in sacks per game at 2.8, and they returned every player from the defense, every starter, returned every starter, and then added Melvin Ingram and drafted the linebacker out of Georgia. I mean, it doesn't get much better than that for sure. So that's one strength. Another strength is how much speed they have on this team. You look at the offense. Jalen Waddle, speedster. Tyreek Hill, fastest player in the NFL. Then you pair that with Mike Gesicki, fastest tight end, potentially. Tua, who is mobile. Chase Edmonds, a receiving running back. Raheem Mostert, maybe the fastest running back, top speed. Sony Michel, another receiving running back, sorry. I mean, it's just ridiculous. And then you pair that with Mike McDaniels and his offensive mindset. It's going to be fun stuff for sure. But then you look at, so like I was saying, with Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill, they were both in the top 12 in yards after the catch last year. So they're just going to run wild if Tua can do anything that resembles a mediocre quarterback. Some of the other things, you look at the defense. We spoke about them. I mean, maybe they can have one of the best cornerback duos if if Byron Jones can come back to form and be great, not be disappointing this year. You pair him with Xavier Howard, so that's solid for sure. Strength. I already spoke about their sacks. They're only going to get better. The best second-year safety in the league. I don't know who would compare to Javon Holland. I mean, he was amazing. I just remember him in that Ravens game on Thursday Night Football, and he was a pest. No matter where he was at on the field, he was amazing. So many strengths on this team. Weaknesses, we'll discuss, and this could be the things that hold them back from taking that next step to, one, getting to the playoffs, which I expect we'll get into, but taking that next step within the playoffs. Their O-line was bad last year. They improved it with Teron Armstead, but it still could be the weakness of this team for sure. Like I said, they added Armstead. The run game, which they added players to, they only averaged 3.5 yards per carry. And, I mean, which is next to last, but they also had teams stacking the box against Tua. So, I mean, you could argue against that for sure. They allowed 2.4 sacks per game, and they were last in pass rush win rate. So even with the sacks, you could say, Tua's mobile, so I mean, what's going on there? But they were last in pass rush win rate. So regardless of Tua being mobile, they still lost the pass rush. The right side will still continue to be a problem in my thoughts. I mean, they have Hunt, Hunt and Austin Jackson. I mean, Eichenberg. I mean, still, if you look at Hunt, Jackson, and Eichenberg, they were all drafted top 40, but none of the three have ever posted a 70 or better PFF grade. Not ideal. Hunt's going to be the right guard, and then Jackson looks to be the right tackle according to this depth chart. But Eichenberg and Jackson, they had a combined 46.3 PFF pass block grade when they were lined up at tackle. Not ideal. Not ideal. So it's still going to probably be a problem, even though Teron Armstead's going to anchor this offensive line. Another weakness was being able to stretch the field last year. They were 26th in yards per pass play at just 5.9. I mean, everybody knows the Tua discussions that's been going on with his arm and everything like that and being able to stretch the field. But maybe they just change it up and get two speedsters in Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill and just yak it up the entire game. See what happens. So just a brief discussion, further discussion on the outlook on both sides of the ball. Start with the offense. Some people say they're all in on seeing if Tua is the quarterback of the future. But the flip side of that, which I agree that's probably what they're doing, but the flip side of a secondary argument for what they're doing with this team, building it as strongly as they are, is that they've made all these moves to be attractive as any team in the NFL for 2023 if Tua is not the quarterback. Plus, they have 2 first-rounders next year. So, I mean, sky's the limit if they just need a quarterback. Heard this on a podcast, but per one of the beat reporters, this coaching staff apparently believes that they just needed more weapons and less focus on the offensive line. Yeah, they got Teron Armstead, but that was it. So, I mean, it kind of stays bad, but I mean, maybe it all works out since McDaniels runs so much of a zone blocking scheme. Maybe that's the switch that's flipped for this team in the offensive line. I mean, you pair that with Tua being third in completion percentage over expectation on when he was on the move last year. He was 5th in EPA per drop back on rollouts last year. So you put all that together, and maybe these weaknesses that I speak of are not really weaknesses this year. Maybe Mike McDaniels can scheme around the weaknesses that will or could affect this team. I mean, also looking at those statistics, maybe he doesn't have a noodle arm like people say, and maybe he has a little arm strength. I don't know. We'll see what happens this year. Then you look at the defense. They had the second most blitzes last year. They keep their defensive coordinator in Josh Boyer. They had the second most blitzes and had the 6th best opponent QBR when they blitzed and also when they didn't blitz. Amazing defense, especially as young as they are. So we'll see what happens. So now we'll get into their schedule and the predictions. So Vegas has them just 8.5 wins last year. 8.5 wins this year. So we'll go through their schedule that I have down here, and we'll knock out the easy wins first. Patriots, easy win. Jets, easy win. Steelers, easy win. Lions, we'll say that's an easy win. Bears, easy win. Texans, easy win. Jets again. We'll say one of the 2 Patriots wins. I guarantee you getting one of those 2 wins. So Jets, another win. So right now, just on easy wins, that's 6 wins right there. 8.5 is the Vegas projection. This team is basically the AFC version of the Philadelphia Eagles. To me, they have all the buildings of being a Super Bowl caliber roster. They're just wanting to take the next step with their quarterback. If their quarterback can take that next step, they're a Super Bowl competing team. So now we look at the schedule. Like I said, Patriots get the win in week 1. Week 2, they play at the Ravens. You remember what they did to Lamar last year. I know they had the injuries in Baltimore, but I don't expect any different. This defense is the same, if not better. 2-0 to start the season. Unfortunately, they're in the same division with the Super Bowl favorites in the Buffalo Bills. So with that said, you can't go too far and say they're going to beat the Bills, even if it is at home. 2-1 through 3 weeks. Week 4, they play the Bengals on Thursday Night Football. The Bengals, they just got hot last year, in my opinion. Yeah, they made a lot of key moves to improve their roster, but they're not going to come out and just go 14-3, 15-2 this year. Oops, sorry. So I say the Dolphins win that game. I already gave them the win in Week 5 against the Jets. Jets, we don't need to discuss them. So 4-1 going into Week 6 against the Vikings. Yes, the Dolphins are much improved. Tua can be improved. Will he be improved? I expect he will be, especially with weapons and the offensive mindset he has on this team. but he's not going to be a top 10 quarterback, or unlikely to. And with that said, he's still going to have hiccups of games. This defense is still young. They were great last year, but they can also have hiccups. So this is going to be one of those weeks that I speak of. So a loss here, but still 4-2 going into week 7. 3-game winning streak here against the Steelers. Good luck with Mitch Trubisky and Kenny Pickett this first year. I don't have high hopes for them. The Lions, much improved. One of the biggest hype trains going on in the NFL. Still going to take their losses at times for sure. And then they have the Bears in week 9 at the Bears. Doesn't matter. Justin Fields. He has Darnell Mooney as his wide receiver 1. Not to knock Mooney, but we know he's not necessarily or has not proven to be a wide receiver 1. And their offensive line is god-awful against this D-line that is going to just wreak havoc the entire game. So 3 wins in a row. Going into week 10, they are 7-2. Could be leading the AFC at this point. And I think they get the win here. They are 8-2 going into the bye. 9-2 once they play the Texans. We don't need to speak about the Texans. Possibly the worst roster in the NFL. Worst team, worst situation, worst franchise. But here's where the problems start. Play the Niners. I could see Kyle Shanahan scheming up, D'Amico Ryans, I should say, scheming up to counter Mike McDaniel. They went up against each other in practice all last year, so we're just going to say they take the loss there. Follow that up with the Chargers, the AFC West. All those teams have to get wins outside of their division to have a chance at the wild card. Justin Herbert, sneaky MVP favorite for me. Then at the Bills again. I mean, until they can prove they can beat the Bills, I can't just give them wins. So 3 in a row here, and then unfortunately they play the Packers. This is going to be a rough stretch for them going into the end of the season. Packers are the NFC favorites to get to the Super Bowl. Them or the Rams, Bucks maybe. So another loss even on Christmas. Bad Christmas gift. So lose 4 in a row. So now they go from 9-2 to 9-6. They then play the Patriots at the Patriots. It's going to be one of the first years that one of the few years they sweep the Patriots, get the win, follow that up with the Jets, ending the season at 11-6. Would you take 11-6 if you're a Miami fan? Absolutely. 11-6. That's gonna 99% of the time guarantee you at least a wild card spot. So, I mean, if you're a Miami fan, you got to be happy about that. You can't have too high of aspirations, and 11-6 is a great season for you. So now we'll run through top players in their position. With each episode, I do who can be a top 5, top 10 player at their respective positions. The Dolphins definitely have some top 5 players. Tyreek Hill is a given. Teron Armstead is a given. Xavier Howard is a potential top 5 player. Top 10s, Jalen Waddle potentially. Byron Jones potentially. Mike Gesicki. Yeah, top 10 tight end. Definitely so. All that together, you put this on with this great, I mean, you look at the defense, any of these players wouldn't surprise me if they're top 10. Byron Jones, bounce back cornerback, comeback be top 10. Javon Holland, he was amazing last year as a rookie safety. What is he going to do this year? Brandon Jones needs to take a big step to get top 10, but yeah. Xavier Howard, yeah, definitely. Jalen Phillips, about to discuss him in another category. Jerome Baker, solid. Van Ginkel. I mean, this is all great. Christian Wilkins, amazing. Emmanuel Ogba, amazing. It's all like they have no one on defense. Defense is just like a below average player. All average players are better. Amazing. MVP candidates, it's not going to be Tua. Let's not get crazy. Defense, I don't know if they have a superstar on defense yet, but could Tyreek somehow amazingly be the MVP? I mean, Cooper Kupp had a chance last year as a wide receiver, so why can't Tyreek this year? He might have 200 catches for 1,000 yards. Most improved player on this team, I think it's going to be Javon Holland or Jalen Phillips, if I had to guess. 2 solid rookies that they had in the first and second round last year. Jalen Phillips is definitely the most underrated on this team. Maybe the most underrated defender in the AFC, NFL, maybe. I don't know, but it's worth the argument. You look at him last year as a rookie, he had 8.5 sacks, and he was 4th in pressure rates on straight dropbacks. I mean, what players in the NFL are putting up those numbers? Much less being someone who was a rookie last year. So they're my two most improved candidates. Drop off candidates, I don't see one really on this team, but if I had to choose one,